you buzzed?
Hello everyone and welcome to What Would Scooby Doo, an original Scooby Doo podcast where I'll be reviewing, critiquing, analyzing every episode in the Scooby universe. And we'll be starting with the very first critical episode, What a Night for a Night. It first aired in 1969, I believe, September 3rd, 1969, and it really kicked off the Scooby Doo franchise and the murder cartoon franchise overall. This is one of my favorite episodes. It's a classic. It's got many zingers in it. And so before we get into it, a little more about me. I'm a Scooby-Doo enthusiast. I've been, since I was a little kid, always loved Scooby-Doo. And I've decided to make a podcast on it where I'll be talking about every Scooby-Doo episode and my favorite parts and all the theories you might have. And just everything in Scooby-Doo. So the way this is going to work is I'll be watching the episode, giving my commentary along while the episode's playing, and yeah, so here we go. Episode 1, What a Night for a Night. So it starts out very spooky, some eerie music playing. It is night. We see the mystery machine drive by. Not the mystery machine, excuse me. A van carrying a mysterious box. And it says, delivered to Jameson Hyde White, Professor of Archaeology, London, England. Then we see a mysterious knight come out of the box and stare menacingly at the driver. Now we have Scooby and Shaggy walking through the woods, because where else would they be walking through? Shaggy complains that Scooby had to see Dog Ranger of the North Woods twice, to which Scooby replies, yeah. They see a mysterious figure hiding in a bush. It sounds not very menacing, but they're, of course, scared of it. Scooby inches towards the bush, and a frog. Very threatening. The frog runs away. Scooby chases after it. Classic Scooby. Now Shaggy chases after, and this is when they find the van with the box. They chase the frog a little bit more. Right up to the van. This is when Scooby's perplexed as he loses track of the frog and Shaggy goes tumbling over him. Classic. Now they spot the truck with the armor in the driver's seat, like he was driving the car. And funny enough, the helmet of the armor falls off in front of them, which is odd. I don't know how that would happen. Didn't appear to be very breezy, but not going to question it. Scooby and Shaggy dart away, because I would be a little spooked by that too. Now we have the whole gang shown up. For the first time, we get to see all of the characters. We have Fred, Velma, Daphne, and of course Scooby and Shaggy, the main iconic duo. They're inspecting the suit of armor. They're asked the same question that I do. What is an empty suit of armor doing in the pickup truck with its lights on in the middle of nowhere? Good question. Not sure about that. Shaggy with the classic zinger. Oh, well, maybe he went out for the night. There are tons of puns in the Scooby-Doo series. I love them. That's what makes the series so unique and fun to watch over and over again. They're reading the name on the crate. It says Jameson Hyde White, Professor of Archaeology, London, England. So they must be delivering it somewhere, but obviously the driver's missing, and the suit armor's been possessed by some spirit. And now they find a piece of paper that says delivered to the county museum. A little odd that this weird town has its county museum. Never really heard of a county museum, but obviously it's in need of a valuable, menacing suit of art. Fred with another pun. We're up to our armor plates in another mystery. Classic, haha. We see a fadeaway to the museum, which is I'm lost for words. A big size is what I'm trying to say. I just can't find the words. Anyway, in their tiny county. I'm assuming it's tiny because it seems like they're in the middle of nowhere. We see a gigantic museum, very out of place, but not going to question it. We'll keep moving. They're now in the museum talking to Mr. Wickles, the curator, who is thanking them for finding it, but also alluding to the mystery and foreshadowing of the suit of life, or suit of armor coming to life, which it all seems a little preposterous. But Mr. Wickles, he knows all the superstitions on every single piece of artifact that they have in the museum. But nonetheless, we see the eyes light up in the box of the knight. So obviously someone's in there right now, but they didn't notice that when they were moving it. Mr. Wickles tells them to put him in the medieval room, or medieval room as everyone else says it. Scooby follows and obviously intrigued by the ghostly box. He finds a odd pair of slightly bent spectacles on a statue of a lion and decides to steal them as any dog would, classic dogs. They're driving away now, baffled by this weird mystery. Shaggy, of course, is hungry, and there's Scooby, still wearing the glasses he just stole from the museum. Probably worth hundreds of millions of dollars. It's just an artifact from a museum, so it's probably priceless. They're now realizing that the glasses are obviously stolen from the museum and don't seem to be too upset about it. So now they're going to the public library, of course, which is also monumental in size. So this county must be flowing with money. And Velma finds a right book that has the exact definition of the glasses. So she knows what she's doing. Hold on to your hula hoops, though. They're made only in England. And now we see the iconic shot, which is in the intro, of all 5 of them deadpanning to the camera. They're in the museum looking at the book, and they all just pan at the camera, real creepy like, but funny nonetheless. We fade to black, little commercial break. Fun fact, it's they must be on another planet where the full moon happens more than one night in a row, because the first night in the opening shot is a full moon, and it is a full moon again, or appears to be a full moon, the next night when they're trying to break into the museum, which again, it seems fine with them. They don't really seem to abide by any laws, which is cool. They go to the back entrance of the museum and cannot get in, obviously, because it's a museum and it would be locked up at night, which makes sense, but they don't care. They foreshadow that Shaggy's about to go through the very, very tip top of the building, which obviously he's not going to just climb up the wall. He's not Spider-Man. So Freddy naturally grabs his 15-foot ladder out of the van and sets it up against the building, obviously, so Shaggy can get in the window. But it does not reach tall enough. He's going to need his 30-foot fence, which he doesn't have a 30-foot ladder, because obviously, who would have that? So Shaggy starts climbing anyway. Fred grabs the jack out of the mystery machine. Still not enough. Shaggy's at the top of the fence. He cranks it slowly by slowly. And that's it. No more jack. One of my favorite lines. I don't know why. It's quirky and I don't know. It's well said by Fred. They still can't reach the top of the fence, the window in the building though, so it's fine because Shaggy's a world-class Olympian who's going to swing right into the window, which he does. He jumps about 4 feet in the air and then catapults himself through a tiny hole that's in the window and then immediately falls down. I guess it's a one-story museum, but it's very, very tall, so he definitely crashes about a good 30 feet, probably to his death. But it's fine because the blow is broken by some artifacts and pillars that obviously were of no real value because no one seems to care that it's all broken. It looks like some vases and some archaeological tablets of some sort. Shaggy then looks around the museum. We get a pan with some creepy music, and he passes a figure who looks really shifty and also sees the Black Knight and gives it the old knock just to make sure it's empty, which it is. Then he pans back across the sketchy figure which eyes follow Shaggy as he moves by and blink, indicating someone is inside it. Shaggy then lets the rest of the gang the uh, into the museum. They decide for the first time to split up, which this will be a recurring theme in there throughout the Scooby Doo franchise, where Fred goes with Daphne, and either he goes with Velma and Daphne, or just Daphne, and then Scooby and Shag are on their own to find the monster, which they always do. But anyway, nonetheless, they decide to split up. Scooby is put on guard, which of course, he's a guard dog. He's obviously meant for that. And the first instance of using Scooby snacks comes in. I'm glad they coin all these shticks early in the series, like the Scooby snacks and the splitting up and everything. It's refreshing to see it in every episode because it's coming. Scooby he more than willingly eats a Scooby snack, and now he's on guard duty. We see a pan of him moving back and forth like the guard dog he is. Obviously, no Black Knight's gonna be a match for him. Not when he's in guard dog mode. Obviously, suitable for the job. He sees a shadow, instantly gets scared, and that's the end of the guard dog. Scooby comes charging at Velma and Shaggy, knocks Shaggy to the ground, and also appears to damage some other stuff, but it's fine because again, museum property is irrelevant and doesn't really matter. Scooby licks Shaggy, and then they go on their way. We cut to Fred and Daphne as they look through what appears to be a mummy sort of tomb, and they see a case of a sarcophagi. I don't know if that's the word for it. The casket that the mummies are in. We see a hand closing it as if they're going inside the casket. And then we go back to Scooby, Velma, and Shaggy walks past a window and he sees the full moon, and of course, double full moon, Black Knight. He shuts the shade down, makes sure the full moon's going to turn on the Black Knight, so can't have that. Of course, then we see the camera pans to the Black Knight, shiny in armor, but still appears to be motionless. Nothing sketchy so far. We cut to probably one of the most just dumb, makes no sense getting split up on accident that we have in the series. There's a wall. Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby are entering another room to the museum, which is separated by a wall. Shaggy continues walking, doesn't enter the room. Velma and Scooby, they don't see that he walks right past them, continues into the room, and 2 seconds later, they lost Shaggy. It's astounding. Another commercial break, and we're back at it. Some more creepy music. We see a bunch of medieval knights all lined up, and a shadow appears. It's Velma and Scooby, probably still looking for Shaggy because they don't know how they lost him, blown away by the obvious of it. She's hoping she finds Shaggy soon. I mean, he shouldn't be that hard to find. It's a one-story museum. Scooby's scared, obviously, because he was scared of his own shadow. So it's established early that anything frightens him, which, I mean, yeah, obviously. He's a dog. My dog would be like that. Velma ties a scarf to his mouth to make sure he doesn't chatter anymore, and his ears start chattering. Perfect. Anyway, they keep walking right past the Black Knight. Creepily, the Black Knight follows, moving with its arms out as if it's going to grab them. Velma and Scooby stop. They comment how spooky it is. The shadow of the Black Knight goes over Scooby. Scooby instantly sees the Black Knight in full life, but cannot bark because the scarf's still wrapped around its mouth. Grabs Velma, tries to tell her to turn around, but she will not pull a 90-degree turn and look to see the Black Knight at her. Immediately runs into her, kicks off her glasses, and runs away. Bolts, digs into a potted plant that's in the museum, big enough for a full-sized dog, which makes sense. Velma's on the ground, looking for her glasses. Obviously, she must be super blind, not deaf. Super blind that she can't see glasses 5 feet away from her to her left. The Black Knight, just as blind, trips over her crouched body on the ground and falls into a, a open stockade, which then falls over and locks on him like it was set up, but that's okay. Velma, still clearly out of it, she doesn't have her glasses, notices the Black Knight, thinks it's Shaggy because it's a cough, and tries to give the Black Knight her cough medicine because Shaggy must have a cold. And it's a good thing she brought the cough medicine. So, here comes Shaggy running in, just in time. He must have realized he lost him. Right as Velma gets her glasses on and gives Shaggy the cough medicine. But you would think, with her glasses on, she can still see the Black Knight in the stockade right next to her. So, I would be freaked out if I were her, but nonetheless, she gives Shaggy the cough medicine, and he definitely realizes the Black Knight's there. The Black Knight doesn't make any effort to try and resist or yell or move out of the stockades, just lays there in defeat. So I, I, I guess they won, but not really, obviously. Scooby comes out of the potted plant just to see them running away and follows them. We fade to black, and we see Scooby's head pop around a corner of a room, looking around. This is when he notices the dinosaur exhibit, the massive dinosaur exhibit, where they have all kinds of dinosaurs. It looks like Stegosaurus and a giant T-Rex bone exhibit. Again, in this county museum, I don't know how they would have afforded this. I mean, it's the 60s, I guess, maybe. I don't know what it was like then. Scooby grabs a giant bone off of the dinosaur exhibit and pulls it off, which causes, of course, because it's not attached, because the bones are just free lying there, causes the dinosaur to crumble to the ground, and its massive tail cuts open a curtain, revealing the Black Knight. Scooby pops out of the bones, sees the Black Knight, and just throws all the bones back up in the air, and they all fall back together in the shape of a T-Rex, just the way it was. So obviously Scooby's a master archaeologist, knows the bone layout of it. We see the Black Knight's face enlarge on the screen, and then it blacks out to the rest of the gang, where Shaggy's talking about how his experience with the Black Knight and what he's seen him. And the rest of them are looking for clues when Scooby comes running in. Again, tackles Shaggy to the ground, another staple in the series. Shaggy notices a painting missing from the wall, which is kind of odd. I mean, it's a museum. It's obviously been there before because there's a stain. You can see like the lighting, the paint is different because the painting's gone. Shaggy goes to tell the other people in the gang. He brings them right back to the painting, even though he was just with them. So I guess Scooby knocked him a good 30 feet into another room, because he could have just showed them, but anyway. He brings them back to the spot where the painting was, and boom, the painting is back. Shaggy is now dumbfounded that the painting wasn't there, it was now there. Anyway, Velma noticed what she thinks is blood on the ground, and a red-like substance, and of course Fred immediately picks it up with his finger, grabs it in his hands, and says it's paint. Obviously, he knows the viscosity of blood, and of course that is not it. It must be paint. I mean, I wouldn't put it past him to taste it. Fred's looking all sketchy and like. Anyway, not not to get on that. Fred's a good guy. They then walk by the mysterious caped figure again and see its eyes shift again, also blinking in. Obviously, someone's in there. They want us to know that. They go back. They return to the casket where the mummy hand was, and the trail of the painting leads to there. So they figure something's got to be in there. So now Freddy opens it, and it reveals a room, a secret room, and there's a bunch of painting materials scattered amongst the room. There's a dresser. It's disheveled. Shaggy makes a comment, someone's a messy housekeeper. You got that for sure. And then you see two paintings. One looks like an actual painting, and the right is a duplicate of it that is trying to be copying it, but it's not finished. So now they're putting two and two together. Obviously, Shaggy and Scooby are too high on Scooby snacks or whatever to understand that this is a paint fraud ring, but that's okay. They don't need to understand as long as Velma or one of the adults does. They're gonna go get the sheriff. Velma or Daphne decides to take the back way out, and good for Daphne. Danger-prone Daphne picks the door with the black armor. Leave it to Daphne to pick the wrong door. Always getting into trouble. It's again established early that Daphne's a klutz and is always getting into trouble, which it should not be put on her, but I guess everyone's got to have their own thing. The next scene, when it comes back, is the Black Knight again, uh, appearing menacingly in the room. But in this shot, it does not have the red on its head, whatever that's called. The knights have on their head, the feather stuff. It doesn't have it for the first shot, which is weird. There's a lot of mistakes in editing that I've noticed watching these again that I didn't as a kid. Anyway, Shaggy runs over to a painting, puts his head behind it. The Black Knight immediately then goes for a sucker punch on the painting. It must be a fake, and obviously he doesn't really care that someone spent hours of time repainting this masterpiece, so he's just going to ruin it with a quick, soft blow. Punches out the face of the painting, grabs for Shaggy. Shaggy then pops his head through the head hole that he punched, and Scooby goes to run and do something. He immediately grabs his easel and painting supplies, takes a good look at the knight, then assuming he's going to start painting because he's a master painter, squirts a little red on the painting, squirts a little red on the knight's face, and then they run away because that was enough to get the knight shooken up. They all run out of the room with the casket. Shaggy and Scooby duck out into another room. This is when the classic. I love the musical cues in the series because throughout Scooby, Where Are You, and some of the Scooby Doo show, they reuse a lot of the musical keys, and I think it's interesting to hear them again because I can pick up clearly. I know what is happening with each musical sequence. So this is when Scooby and Shaggy decide to hide under the bearskin rug, and it's I don't know how to describe how it goes, but it's a very distinct musical cue that when I hear in other episodes, I immediately refer to this one. Of course, obviously, the two under a big rug moving around is obvious to see, and the Black Knight spots them, steps on the end of the rug, and they continue walking across the floor like nothing happened for a few seconds before they realize, oh no, he sees us. They immediately then crawl under a table because the Black Knight won't see them. Obviously, he doesn't, but oh, there's a table. Picks up the table. They must be really good at hide and seek because they grab onto the legs of the table, so you can't see them. He then gives up. He's like, okay, whatever. Chucks the table into a wall, smashes the wall, puts a good hole in it, and then we see Scooby and Shaggy because obviously they can't get out of that. They then dash right by the Black Knight into the relic room, which my favorite part. This is another thing that'll resurface is Shaggy practicing his ventriloquism. But before we get to that, they decide to hide in a model tank because that seems like a good plan. All three of them, Fred, Daphne, and Velma, because again, why not? And then Scooby and Shaggy, just a recipe for disaster, hide in a World War II era plane, or maybe sooner. I'm not sure, but that can't go wrong. Anyway, Shaggy's letting us know about his what's it called? Ventriloquism ability, and how he's going to pretend to be a voice in a pot, which he then does. The Black Knight just, what? There's a guy in a pot, goes over to the pot, opens the lid. Oh, no one's in here. Well, I'm dumb. Scooby's tail then turns on the old fan in the museum, which it's astonishing that that type of plane would still have gas in it and still have like the on switch connected to the motor and everything in a museum where people go. It's just this museum's got a lot of problems. Obviously, there's a counterfeit ring. There's just a lot of stuff going on that. I'm glad we don't have a county museum in where I live. Anyway, the plane is now booming around the room. It must be a big room. You can tell it's big because the background's looping, which is what they do a lot in Scooby-Doo, because it's obviously much easier to animate when you can just loop a background and you don't have to create a new background each time. So I'm assuming the room's just identical on all four sides and they're just driving in a circle, because that would make sense. They they leave the room chasing after the Black Knight, completely rip the sides of the plane off. So now it's just a straight cylinder driving, which is fine. They're booming. I don't know how the Black Knight is outrunning the plane at all. It's crazy. I know. A lot of this is crazy. Anyway, they see that they're gonna have to pull up because they're at a dead end and it's either kill the Black Knight or turn around. So Scooby-Doo, the master pilot, does his maneuver to flip a 180 upside down, and now they're on the ceiling of the building. Pulls another 180, heading straight back at the Black Knight, crashes into him. Amazingly, no one dies. No one dies. Not Scooby, not Shaggy, not the Black Knight, unfortunately, but he's obviously very banged up. We see him disheveled on the ground, kind of bent up, and we see that when Scooby takes off the helm of the mask, Jesus, that I can't talk tonight. Mr. Wickles is the one. His glasses all bent up, his hair out of place. He's obviously very defeated. He's not going to be raking in the dough anymore from this counterfeit painting operation. And then we cut to a scene where the police are taking Mr. Wickles away, and they're thanking the gang for solving the case of the art swindler. And Fred is telling them how cool their fake art setup is, and they're describing how they did it, how they would swap the paintings out at night, how the master painter Mr. Wickles would and his gang would duplicate the paintings, then they'd, I'm assuming, sell the real paintings for quite a profit. And the reason they had to get rid of Hyde White was because he was the only one in the whole world, that could spot the difference in the paintings. So I guess they could have just killed him, but we're still wondering. Most viewers, probably not the kids, they probably forgot. But about Mr. Hyde White, where is he? What happened to that figure that was in the robe? We don't know. I think it's also funny to point out that Fred is like he could do he likes the idea of the counterfeit painting operation, and it sounds like he'd be down to do that. Like he could recreate that. Anyway, I feel like they could all switch to a life of crime and do very well because of all the mysteries they solve, and they know what not to do and what to do to be successful. Anyway, that could be its own series. And yep, so they're all realizing, like some other people are, when Daphne asks, "Oh no, Professor Hyde White, where is he?" They say, "We never find him." Well, it's Scooby-Doo with a shoe. Scooby comes running in with a shoe, says, "Follow me." They head over to the mysterious robe figure that the eyes were following, and see there's an exposed foot. The sheriff takes the mask off of the figure, and we see a man blindfolded, well, not blindfolded, gagged and bound by rope. And oh, it's Professor Hyde White. How do you do? That solved that. And now we go back to the library of Hyde White, and they're all talking about how Mr. Wickles made up the legend of the Black Knight, and to cover for his disappearance, because I guess he wasn't okay with murder, but he was okay with kidnapping and art fraud. So I guess he made up this the Black Knight myth, and now we see the Black Knight has resurrected and is at the desk of Mr. Hyde White. But oh, just kidding. We see it below the waist, and it's just Scooby, a classic Scooby, to resurrect the villain, if you will, at the end, where he pretends to be the villain, which is another common theme in the series. Scooby Doo. And that's a wrap. The episode ends just like that. A very good first episode for the series. It sets up everything perfectly. It just I'm a the series is amazing. It's a great watch for anyone, all ages. I loved it as a kid. I still like it now because of how nostalgic it is and how funny it can be, and just there's so many good episodes to watch, and at least the majority of episodes I've seen, which is the first three seasons, the Scooby Doo show, even What's New Scooby Doo, even the more modern stuff, it still carries the original message and original feel. It may not look the same and it may not sound the same, but it's still Scooby Doo, and it's still a great franchise and a great series. So I hope you enjoyed. That was episode 1, What a Night for a Night. I'll be back next time covering episode 2, which is, give me a sec, I should have planned this better. I have it. A Hassle in the Castle, I believe. I just want to make sure. Yep, Hassle in the Castle. So I'll be covering that episode next. If you liked, enjoyed the commentary, just feel free to like the video. I can't talk. I'm not good at promoting myself. Feel free to like the video if you stayed throughout the end. You'll enjoy more content because I'll be posting as regularly as I can. I really enjoy making this series. Be sure to subscribe so you know, and turn notifications on so you know when I go live. And that's all. So thank you everyone for listening. See you later.